Kendrick, he's trying to say, hey, this really isn't a rap battle when you think about it. This is you having an introduction with yourself, right? This is, and I think that's something that we can all relate to. Like, I'm really not competing with my classmates. I'm competing against myself.
Right.
This is the Ken that I am, the Ken that I was, and then the Ken that I can be. That's what's ultimately at stake.
I've been sitting here thinking about all the things you do to me, how you make me feel. I'm wondering if it's the same for you.
Hey, West Coast represent. Vegas. I know I'm not from Cali, but we close enough.
It said close enough. I want like a 4-hour drive. Well, it's less than that.
Yeah.
Because LA's 4 hour, right?
Yeah, 4 or 5.
Okay.
4 or 5.
I fixed it. It was loose, but it's back.
What year? Okay.
It's small ear syndrome. It's not even my fault. It's not my fault.
How you feeling for you?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, we're here for another podcast. This is the Old Souls Podcast. If you're new and if you're returning, thanks for returning.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
We are your hosts. This is my wife,
Naomi.
And I am Ken, and we're just so happy to be here. We almost didn't record today, believe it or not. Yep, believe it or not, this almost didn't happen.
Yes, it's late at night.
It's late. You know, we still pushing, we still up, you know, but we almost didn't record. And the reason why is because we had a disagreement today.
Yeah.
We weren't seeing eye to eye. And so we had to talk through some of the things.
Yeah.
Had to get back on the same page. And so that took some time. We are both very outspoken at times, and we've been with each other for some time. And so there's this moments where we just have to take a step back.
Yeah.
Make sure Christ is at the center.
Yeah. And just find resolve. Yeah. Like you said, I mean, we're thankful that, you know, we are able to find resolve. We know that we wouldn't be sitting right here if we hadn't, because, you know, that's, you know, we want to make sure that we're always authentic to our experience. But we're thankful that God helped bring us, you know, we found resolve with one another through Christ. So, you know, we not beefing like Kendrick and Drake.
Nah, we on the same. And it's what was that song? Jeez, yeah. No one wins when the family feuds.
Right.
Oh,
exactly.
Man,
exactly.
That's a bar. That's truer words have never been spoken.
Right.
For sure. So
yeah. So I mean, speaking of Drake and Kendrick, you know, we know they've been, you know, going at it.
Mercy.
The rap world, hip hop has been active over the last few weeks.
Real active.
And I read something where they were like, between the two of them, they dropped like 9 songs or something like that, which is kind of crazy to think, because it's like usually, you know, with a beef, you'll get like 1 or 2, you know, or generally 2 songs at the least. So the fact that they've hit each other with like 3 songs a piece at the very least is crazy.
Right. It is. A lot of music.
Yeah, but so I know that you listen to Kendrick a little bit more than you listen to Drake, but you do listen to Drake as well. So I'm just curious, you know, what's your take on this overall situation? I know, you know, on this podcast, we like to, you know, just kind of break things down from our viewpoint, from a viewpoint of values. You know, we like to get deep with things here and there. So what's your take on this situation, on the beef?
Man. Well, I'm not going to be overly dramatic. I think that for me, it boiled down to 2 simple questions. who are you and what do you represent?
Okay.
And that could be an oversimplification, but I feel like it represents to me what was really at the forefront here.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have a bias, but it's not because I'm dismissive of what Drake produces, his music. It's just that I tend to listen to things that I can relate more to.
Right.
And so my music tastes have changed drastically, right? It's like, it's not that Future don't have bops. It's just that like, I don't relate to his experiences. I don't relate to his lifestyle. I'm late 20s married. You know what I'm saying? And he's not catering to that. Or does it really feel like a lot of times their music evolves? And I think that's kind of like how I have Drake. And that's really kind of like when I listened to Euphoria, right? Because we had to like that record. And then you had, Drake with the push-ups. But we finally get like a full track from Kendrick in Euphoria.
Right.
And he opens up with kind of like this very melodic tone. It's very calm. And he said something that I was like, okay, he's drawing a line between himself and Drake, right? And one of those early lines was, I make music that electrifies them. You make music that pacifies them. And there's so many videos that are breaking down like the double entendres, triple entendres of just that bar itself.
Okay.
But the reason why I like it, babe, is because once again, he's drawing the line to their motives. What are they representing?
Okay.
When they're making a song, what is their motive? What is their intent? What is the expectation of even their audience? And so when he says electrify, what I receive from that is like stimulate, motivate, inspire, get moving. When I think of pacify, I think of what you do for a baby: calm, keep as is, comfortable.
Okay.
And so there's one that I think induces an evolution and one that maintains the status quo. And when I also think about pacify, I think of kind of like an oversimplification. I think of babying. I think of something that's monotonous. I think of something that's repetitive. I think it's something that's like easily understood, not very challenging. And when you think about the topics that Kendrick will tend to make, right? Why the All Right record can become an anthem for protest.
Right.
And it's like a huge disconnect in terms of one versus the other. And so I thought that was at the crux as well. Another bar. This is from Meet the Grams, right? And so obviously this was a very eerie record. It was dark, but it was intended to be. He says, take off. I want you to take off your mask. Let me see what's behind all those achievements. Why believe you? You never gave us nothing to believe in, right? And once again, this goes back to, who are you really?
Yeah.
Right. Like what's behind what you're presenting, what's behind the numbers, the streams, like what really drives your creation of music.
Right.
And then he's like, why believe you? So like, what do we mean by believe you? Brothers believe the act, believe what you're presenting, or believe in even what you're saying about me. If I'm Kendrick, right? Why should we believe you? You gave us nothing to believe in, right? And that kind of goes into the fact of, one, he just says, right before that, Drake had the Family Matters. And in that record, he says, Kendrick raps like he's trying to free the slaves, right? And so there's this aspect where Kendrick is rapping from a place of, I'm trying to liberate something, someone. And I think that once again, so this is aspect of, you gave us nothing to believe in. Where's the hope? And you could argue maybe Drake's like, that's not my MO. But once again, he's drawing the line. And I think that separation was something that I found to be like a fundamental theme. And so there was a lot of name calling. There was a lot of the jabs and all this other stuff. But what I kind of was always extracting from it was, who are you and what do you represent?
So I know, like, when we were talking about this a little bit earlier, there was you had brought up a line in there where, and you have to help me with the line because I can't remember the exact, but there was on one of the tracks, he was basically like, you're battling yourself. Like, this isn't a battle between me and you. This is me basically highlighting the fact that you're battling yourself.
Right.
So, like, what's your take on that? Like, and how does that kind of fold into like you were saying, those two main takeaways for you?
I think that was deep because that was also on Meet the Grams, and that was his ending bar, right? And what was interesting is, like, in that track, he's talking to different members of Drake's family, right? And then he ends with kind of like, "Dear Aubrey," and his tone was much softer than I was going to expect. And he said, "I hope you know my intention was never to crash your party," right? And obviously, he gives us reasons for why he went this route in terms of this track. But like you said, he ends his verse that's directed to Aubrey with, "This isn't a rap battle. This is a battle with yourself." And that is true for everyone.
Yeah.
That is true for everyone. And I think that was the underlying battle in a lot of like Kendrick's records, like whether it's Damn, and in that album, like each track is an emotion: fear, lust, pride, humility, right? Or humble. And then obviously with the Mercer Big Steppers, like he's talking about father time. What he's talking about is this aspect with his father where, you know, his father's mom just passed, right? And he was like, "Why are you going to work so soon?" And his father said, "Man, I'm losing the bar." But basically the sentiment was, hey, the bills got to be paid. Life ain't giving no silver spoon. Like, so I even though I'm mourning, life don't stop for that. You know, and so there's this aspect where like he's kind of accepting I guess you could say he's accepting an example where he's not really being taught how to process his emotions, but that he should just keep pushing, keep going. And so these are things that people can relate to, you know. And Mother I Sober is a track in which he describes his mother's trauma to a point where she doesn't believe him when he says that he wasn't touched, right? That he had not been touched as a kid. But because of her trauma, she doesn't believe that he hasn't been traumatized in that way. And so these are tracks in which he's looking in the mirror of his experiences of his family. And so he's dug deep. There we go. Thank you. And then put it out for the world to inspire that same activity.
Right.
And then when you contrast it to what Drake might produce, I think that there's this superficiality of it. And so for Kendrick, he's trying to say, hey, this really isn't a rap battle when you think about it. This is you having an introduction with yourself, right? This is, and I think that's something that we can all relate to. Like, I'm really not competing with my classmates. I'm competing against myself.
Right.
This is the Ken that I am, the Ken that I was, and then the Ken that I can be. That's what's ultimately at stake. It's not me versus this next man or this next person. It's us versus who we have a tendency to be and who we have the potential to be.
Right.
And so I think that's a fundamental thing that we could all take away, that I took away. But I thought it was super, I think it was a dope angle.
Yeah.
That was a dope angle.
Yeah, no, that was really, really good, babe. I think it triggers something in me. One, when we talk about why do we do what we do, right? And then two, the influence we have over people and how each of our talents, skills, art, I guess you could say, impacts people in some type of way. And so like on the why do we do what we do, it makes me like when you're talking about the difference between the type of music Drake puts out versus Kendrick, like you can see the difference in that. Like I don't know, I don't listen to their interviews and whatnot, so I don't know if they've ever spoken about what influences them and inspires them, and why they decided to become a rapper, and why they, choose this path. But through their music, you can almost see it, if that makes sense. And I think that when I see Kendrick's music, and partly why I think from the deepest of level it resonates with people, his position is because he is an individual that you can tell he has an understanding of who he is. Now, no perfect person is perfect, so I don't think that we wouldn't be able to find any fault in him. But like you said, in his music, he talks about that. Right. He talks about his flaws, his faults, the things that he's experienced in life that has led him where he is. Right. He uses that as an art form to communicate that to others, and maybe inspire them in some type of way. And I think that's really powerful, because what that is using your talent as and in your position in the space to influence people in a deeper way and a more powerful way than just a good time. And don't get me wrong, I'm not I'm not the party pooper, or hopefully I'm not. Or the buzzkill.
Nah, you're definitely not.
But the thing is that like music that it sounds good and it's surface level, it's cool for a cool little minute, but it has implications, it is surface level for a reason. Like if we're talking about money all the time, if we're talking about women and things that are not have a deeper core to them, like that also influences people.
It does.
And
it does.
I think that it's just kind of super, like, it's a tale of two stories, and I think too, like even like the J. Cole piece, because I'm like a big fan of J. Cole. Probably I like his music more than either. So when he bowed out, I was like, all right, I was kind of curious. I was kind of curious to see what he could have, what would have happened if him and Kendrick went bar for bar. But I don't think that they would have been, that type of scenario would have really existed with them, because the type, like how they talk about each other, there seems to be some level of respect still. But nevertheless, the point being is that like J. Cole and Kendrick, they both have a space in the rap community where I think people see them as lyricists, but lyricists that have a message, like they're always communicating something to people. Like J. Cole, like he talks about like the grass not being greener, he talks about how he got the money. And he's like, trust and believe, like from a person that got the money, this ain't all what it's people are chalking it up to be. Like that's not where the happiness comes or the fulfillment comes. And like that type of message is so powerful. And I think to me, like just kind of being a outsider looking into this battle, I guess, or beef, when I look at it, I'm like, wow, like why do we do what we wanted, what we do? Like what do we want to leave behind in this world? In anything that we're doing, like for them, it's rap, and you can say that they both are going to go down in history as two of the greatest, not the greatest, but like there's going to be a list for everybody is going to have their positioning where they might put them in the top 5 or the top 1, 2 or whatever. But their catalogs are completely different, and they've left something completely different to the world. And it's like, for me, when I look at that, it makes me reflect and say, like, what do I want to leave with this world? What type of influence, what type of way do I want to use whatever influence that I may have, whether that's just in my community, my family or whatnot, and to leave behind. And that is important, and for me, I want to leave something that people can take, value from, feel uplifted or inspired. Of course, we want to have a good time here and there, but like, ultimately, like, what is this adding to our community? And especially because I'm really big on like building the Black community. And like, I want to, like, I right now, I haven't necessarily done anything that I think is like, oh yeah, you know, except for just be myself. Mm-hmm. But I think that each of us have kind of a opportunity, whether it's going to college, and sometimes it might not be just going to college. It might be just doing what you can in your community, going, mm-hmm. you know, getting, inspiring your family that like, oh, I can graduate from high school. Mm-hmm. You know, I can go, you know, I get a job, you know, just leaving a positive imprint. Mm-hmm. And so like when these type of things happen, like I have a tendency to lean toward what I feel mm-hmm. Is inspiring and pushes the culture forward, right. or leave something to where people can reflect and grow. Right. And so go Kendrick. No, like,
right. I think that was some great points that you were talking about, because that is a question that I think should be asked. What am I doing and what does it leave behind? Because mm-hmm. it leaves a trail.
Yeah.
It's just, where does that trail head? Mm-hmm. And I think that it should inform the decisions we make. And I'll be lying to say that I've always done that. A lot of times I've looked for things that could help validate me, mm-hmm. right? And so I want to get this grade, right? Because in doing so, it will validate something in me of intelligence, mm-hmm. right? It's like for me to say I'm smart, but then the test to affirm it, and mm-hmm. then classmates to affirm it, it reinforces something that I want to be enforced. Mm-hmm. But is that it? Like, and I think that that's what I thought was deep about kind of some of that last verse in Meet the Grams. It's like, take off that mask. Like, what's behind the achievement? Right. Because you can hit a target, but what's the meaning behind hitting it? Mm-hmm. Is it just to say I hit it?
Right.
Is it just to get to the mountaintop to say I'm here? Mm-hmm. Or were you trying to bring somebody there? Mm-hmm. Like, or were you trying to show somebody that it's possible? Like, what's behind those achievements? And I think that at times when I used to see achievement, I used to feel like the value was inherent in the achievement. But then when you see successful people either communicate like phases of depression or being unhappy, well, it then kind of distorts. Okay, maybe that destination or that achievement in itself doesn't bring the thing that maybe the validation might feel like it would bring. Mm-hmm. So people are saying, oh, this is a great actor or a great artist or a great a professional dentist, doctor, whatever their field is. If the validation isn't enough, if the certificate, the degree isn't enough, then you do want to know what's behind those achievements. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it's a battle with ourselves, because ultimately we cannot find anything external to validate us internally. Mm. That's why whether I take this is Boohoo Man right here, I don't even know how much this shirt was. Let's say it was like $20.
Right.
I could take it off and put on a Gucci shirt. Mm-hmm. Right. Now, would I feel different with maybe like a linen or the cotton? Maybe it might feel a little bit more comfortable. Who knows, right? But in and of itself could not add value to me. Mm-hmm. And while we might ascribe it, from a superficial standpoint, on the depth of our spirit and our soul, when we really think about how we feel about ourselves, that cannot cover up any of those things.
Right.
And so it ultimately goes back down to who am I and what I represent? Mm-hmm. Because those two will also answer the question of what I'm leaving behind. And I think that should employ the decisions we ultimately make, because who we are should inform what we represent, mm-hmm. which will dictate what we leave behind.
Exactly.
So
no, that's good. That's good. You have anything that you want to leave with the people? Old souls?
I do have some soul food.
Okay.
I do have some soul food. Before we get to soul food, I think that the biggest takeaway are those 3 questions. I don't think we can reinforce it anymore. And I think that if you're a Christian, I think it's easier to define those 3 questions because they are defined for us.
Right.
Who are we? Child of God.
Right.
Who do we represent? Jesus Christ. Right. What are we supposed to leave behind? The fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, self-control. I mean, like, it's demonstrated. And then now we're also given the Holy Spirit to live that out.
Right. To have the power to have do. The power. Right.
For sure, the power. So that's all I have. Unless you have anything else you want to leave behind, I'm going to read the soul food.
Nah, I think you hit it, the nail on the head with that. So
okay,
let's get into the soul food.
Let's get into it. So this is a quote. I Googled who it was by. Some people say it was Ellen DeGeneres, but we'll just say anonymous. Find out who you are and be that person. That's what your soul was put on this earth to be. Find the truth, live that truth, and everything else will come.
That's good. That's
the soul food for today.
Yeah.
Find out who you are.
Find out who you are. And yeah.
Everything else will come. So we're glad you were able to join us on another episode of the Old Souls podcast. We want you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. We do respond to the comments, and share it with somebody. We want to continue to spread this message of values, of getting a better sense of who we are and whose we are. And so that begins with not only posting podcasts, but you all sharing it. So we appreciate y'all. And until we see y'all next time, y'all have a great week.
Yes, have a good one.